The United States government has declared war on the traveling stranger. You've heard it here first on News TV. Well, I'll be damned, they finally did it. The president was fielding questions. Upon deferment with the Secret Service and the Justice Department, we have deemed traveling stranger a threat to our most holy union. A nationwide draft is now being implemented. They don't know what they've started. Sitting on his couch in the command center, traveling stranger turned off the news. How many people need to die today? He set up the security suite. The carpet bombing started at midnight. They would never find him. He had to strike first. No women and children. He had his rules. Grabbing his gear, he left the hideout. How could this happen? In the country he loves. He was caught in the open. The precision airstrikes rained down from the gunships, zigzagging back and forth. They couldn't zero in on him. The tanks were rolling in with a squadron of infantry. This is getting messy. The dive bombers dropped their payload and flew off as ground forces rolled in, bottlenecking into the street. Mines started going off everywhere. Traveling stranger had no choice. It was him or them. Disappearing into shadow, he entered the tanks one by one, dropping grenades. Fall back on superior firepower! This is a murder hole! Traveling stranger snuck up on retreating soldiers and took them down one by one. He got his hands on a sniper rifle and fired on an incoming plane. The jet spiraled out of control and crashed into a mess of tanks and soldiers. Retreat! Man down! The defeat was total. The traveling stranger could not be controlled. His powers were too great. He would have to desert the command center in New City for now. He caught a train to the United States Central Command. He would confront the general once and for all. The violence needed to stop. He wasn't a threat to humanity. On the train he gathered his thoughts. How had it come this far? Why couldn't he travel the world? He was not a monster. Helicopters gave him no relief as they tailed the train. Soldiers were dropping by rope on top of the train. Climbing up, the traveling stranger fought several of them hand to hand as they swarmed him. He easily threw most of them clear of the train. One helicopter came too close and a soldier was thrown in front of the window, causing it to crash and burn. He would take this fight straight to the capital. Someone had to pay. The general was just following orders, but he also had the power to end the bloodshed. The traveling stranger took the train's controls and pushed the throttle all the way. He would crash into the station. The violence was necessary. He used his shadow powers to slink off the train before it collided with the car in front. Fire, smoke, and screams, the reality of it all sinking in. Someone had something to gain out of this, and he would find out why. It was too much to bear. Traveling stranger raced to the Capitol building as the artillery rained down. Dodging explosives was getting comfortable. Held up in an apartment, then shadow stepped his way to the government buildings. The hellstorm subsided. The Central Command was danger close. The Marines, Army Rangers, and Air Force were hunting him like a dog. Up the Capitol steps, it was a mad dash. Time to write my congressman. Someone had to answer these war crimes. The traveling stranger has breached our main defenses. He's come to take what's his. I'll talk some sense into him. Stranger, welcome. It was the general, in all his pomp and circumstance. Who started this? Why can't you leave me alone? The government can't put up with you, stranger. You need to come in. I don't work for blood money. I just want a quiet life. The general put out his cigar. Your powers are out of control, stranger. You need guidance. Enlist now in the forever war and put an end to death and destruction. Sounds pointless. Then go out in a blaze of gunfire. Your choice. Running out of the building, he stood on the steps. More helicopters dropped soldiers behind sandbags. The Capitol had become a war zone. The chain guns opened fire. Traveling stranger flashed light in the pilot's eyes, causing them to get caught in power lines. The crash sparked electricity as the troops scattered. Cleaning up the streets, traveling stranger was taking down soldiers easily. He got a bazooka and blew up a few more tanks for good measure. Don't make me do this! The military was spent. The traveling stranger had sacked the Capitol. The United Nations armored personnel carriers were rolling in. Stranger, cease fire! I hope you have good news. We're here to broker a peace deal. The good old US of A has overplayed their hand. This war needs to stop. Yeah, but they started it. I was just traveling. I wanted a simple stranger's life, but they took everything from me. We will sign a peace treaty and give you a head start. The government will never stop hunting you, but you've earned the hard-fought respect of the military. Either sign the treaty or the Navy will fire a tactical nuke. Normally I'd take my chances, but that'd be overkill. The civilians would be collateral damage and I can't see my country burned. Let this be a warning to the governments of the world. The traveling stranger is the strongest man on earth. And keep the president off my back. Time to run, stranger. Go home and rest. The world will find your place. No more young kids fighting wars they don't understand. The forever wars will need you to step in when you're ready. The traveling stranger took a cab back home to New City. He even managed to fall asleep on the way. Nothing would ever stand in the way of his revenge. He was coming to understand his power. As long as the traveling stranger survives!